Hello there. I am Brady Plunger, one of the Associate Curators of Education at the University of Iowa Stanley Museum of Art. In this video, we are going to spend time looking closely and asking questions about Sam Gilliam's 1970 painting, Red April. I've chosen to share this painting with you so that we can explore the complicated ways that artists' identities and their artistic interests interact and impact how we understand the artist's work. Let's take a moment to look closely at Red April. This is a massive painting. It's about 9 feet high and about 13 feet long. As we look across the painting, we see many colors: red, pink, yellow, blue, possible hints of green, and even the brownish color of the canvas that the paint sits on. The red seems to stand out the most. There are blobs and splotches of red paint across the canvas that seem to sit on top of the other colors. This effect comes from the way that the artist created this painting. Gilliam laid his huge canvas on the floor and used washes, that is, paints thinned out with water, of colors like yellow and blue to stain the canvas, and then he poured, splattered, and daubed red paint over the top of the washes. To cap it all off, he folded the canvas like an accordion while the paint was still wet, and then unfolded it, causing the paint to run, stick, and even pull away from the canvas to create unpredictable mixes of paint colors and markings. Gilliam was experimenting with different artistic techniques and materials in the 1960s and 70s, which explains why Red April contains so many different approaches to getting paint on a canvas. Gilliam held 2 degrees in painting from the University of Louisville and was well aware of the history of art and the expectations for what a painting should be. So, like a well-trained scientist, his experiments were based on established principles but reflected his own desire to think bigger. One other experimental aspect of this painting is actually the shape of the canvas. Some of you might have noticed that in the photo, the edges of the canvas are angled downward, making it look like the painting is coming off the wall. This is called beveling, and it's a technique that Sam Gilliam borrowed from woodworking and would have been surprising to viewers at the time, just like his other experiments. This large photo from 1968 shows fires raging in Washington, D.C., and it probably took you by surprise after all the time we just spent talking about Sam Gilliam's artistic experiments. Gilliam lived through the most tumultuous years of the civil rights movement in the U.S. This picture shows the after effects of demonstrations and civil unrest that followed the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in 1968. Gilliam would likely have seen many of these actions taking place outside of his very own studio. D.C. and other cities around the country were rocked by unrest through the month that followed King's death, and Gilliam would have also been aware of the national movement because his wife, Dorothy Butler, was a reporter for the Washington Post. Let's look back to Red April. This painting shows us none of the violence or unrest that Gilliam would have witnessed in 1968, yet its title, Red April, ties it to those exact events. So what is Gilliam getting at here, and why is he painting events from 1968 in 1970? Well, in 1970, he was still living in D.C., and the city had not fully recovered from the unrest of 1968. Gilliam could still see fire damage in his own neighborhood. At the same time, Gilliam's personal fortunes were on the upswing, as he was gaining more attention from museums and galleries and had won grants from the National Endowment for the Arts. This slide shows you the sheer size of Gilliam's painting. You can see it takes up most of a very big wall in the Stanley's old museum building on the UI campus. Gilliam's stronger financial position in the early 1970s allowed him to obtain the type of high-quality materials he needed to make such a large painting, such as the very large canvas and the high-end acrylic paints that he used. His economic stability might have also played a role in why he revisited April 1968 in this painting, because he finally had the resources to make a work that could reflect the importance of the subject. But that is only part of the story here. Gilliam created a series of 4 huge paintings on the subject of Dr. King's death and the urban unrest that followed. Red April is one of these 4. Most of Gilliam's paintings at this time did not have such serious subjects, and he often argued that his art was really only about formal concerns, and not at all related to his identity as a black man. Yet, in the case of Red April, Gilliam directly engaged with his identity through reflecting on the importance of Dr. King's life, death, and legacy. Some might argue that the visual impact of Gilliam's techniques of washing, pouring, folding, and beveling actually force you to split your attention between the style of the painting and its subject. Gilliam probably intended for this tension to exist, so we couldn't oversimplify his painting to be only about his identity, when he was strongly committed to exploring the formal qualities and techniques of painting and was building a career based on his artistic skill.